What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, hit the bell notification, get notified as soon as we drop our new content. So first, without further ado, let's get into it. Deontay, the Bronze Bomber Wilder, the subject of this video. And yeah, this video really is kind of a question. And that question is, will we ever see Deontay Wilder back in the ring? Will he box again? And the reason I sort of asked this question, and I've been thinking about this one, is because with Deontay Wilder, we haven't actually heard him call anybody out. We haven't actually heard him talk properly about fighting anyone. Since the Tyson Fury loss, in the immediate aftermath, Deontay Wilder was uncharacteristically quiet. Normally he's a big presence on social media. Normally he has a lot to say about himself, and he said many outlandish things, and normally he's a very, very confident figure. And we didn't hear anything from him for, I don't know, I want to say close to a year. It's like at least, I don't know, at least around 9 months we didn't hear anything from Deontay Wilder. And just to put it into perspective, we can look at a few other fighters who had losses and KO losses at that. You look at a guy like a Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte gets knocked out by Povetkin and immediately wants the rematch. He was trying to line up a WBC title fight. Povetkin comes along, derails it, and he wants the rematch. You look at Anthony Joshua in his, it's like a broken record, but in his high profile loss, where people still criticize him today for losing to a fat guy like Andy Ruiz, and people said he's done and blah blah blah, but after that loss, he's just said the better man won, and he wants the rematch immediately. He had that rematch clause, and he exercised it straight away. He made it clear, I want a rematch, I want to run it back. With Deontay Wilder, he lost, terribly to Tyson Fury, TKO loss, and since that loss, it's been nothing. It's been crickets. And obviously there was then talk by his team several months ago about there being a rematch clause and Fury has to fight him and blah blah blah, but from the man himself we didn't really hear anything to this effect. All we were hearing is Deontay Wilder fan channels making claims about Tyson Fury's gloves being tampered with, and Tyson Fury's gloves having metal objects in them and egg weights and anvils and all sorts of things, and no padding, and claiming he'd done it in sparring as well, and he'd had no padding in sparring. And there was all sorts of people making claims about Tyson Fury, these claims that have no proof to them and have no evidence to them. And that was all we were hearing for several months. And then when Deontay Wilder finally spoke out himself, all we heard was exactly the same thing that his fans and his supporters were saying, the kind of fanboy type of guys who basically believe he can do no wrong, and believe although he lost, that the loss was unfair, and that there was the world's against Deontay Wilder, and they bring race into the equation and all sorts. And these are the type of guys that come up with these videos with no evidence, and they've been living off of that for a long time. But from the man himself, all we heard was him regurgitating exactly what his fans were saying. And here and now, I think it's more than near enough a year. Yeah, it's more than a year removed from the last time he fought. And my thing is, if he is serious about coming back and fighting, we surely would have heard something by now. Because when it came to Tyson Fury, he knew about this rematch clause thing, and immediately after he beat Wilder, not long after, he was calling Wilder out again, saying, "Yeah, where are you, you dosser, blah blah blah. Let's fight again and whatever." And knew about the rematch. He basically called Wilder out. Wilder never responded, and now we're just hearing basic radio silence from Deontay Wilder. So, um, in my book, I'm thinking that we possibly might not see Deontay Wilder in action, at least maybe not this year, because I think he's a tremendously proud individual, and I don't think his pride can take the hit of sort of fighting somebody else and possibly losing to somebody else other than Tyson Fury. And I think obviously he knows he's not going to get the Tyson Fury fight for, well, God knows when. There might never be. He might never get that chance again because the rematch clause and everything's expired and all that. So he might never get that chance again. And I think his pride has been hit and dented so bad. Ironically, they claimed he had a dented head or something, but I think his pride's been hit so bad now that we might have seen the last of him, because I'm not seeing any signs that he actually wants to fight on. I mean, if he did want to fight on, I'm pretty certain that he would at least be talking to Al Heyman and talking to his team and saying, look, okay, we can't get Fury, let's fight somebody else. Let's fight Michael Hunter. Let's fight even PBC guys, Kawanaki, or any of these guys. You know, you would imagine that if he had that kind of fighting spirit and that motivation, and he really wanted to fight, and he really wanted to sort of get Fury back in the ring or get another world title fight, although they're tied up now, he would, you would imagine, be making himself busy, or his team would try and make him busy. You know, why not take on a guy like Efe Ajagba? Why not take on one of these sort of contender type heavyweights in the meantime and build yourself up, and then try and say, right, I've beaten these other guys now. Now give me the champion, and he'd have the credibility to do that. You know, he could be even going after a Dillian White fight, because if Dillian White beats Alexander Povetkin in a rematch, then Dillian White, I think, will be in a better position than him. He'll be back at sort of the number one contender or whatever, or mandatory for the WBC. So the winner of Joshua versus Fury will have to at some point fight him. That might be long down the line, because you got Usyk, or if Usyk fights Joyce, you got a few guys in line there. But Dillian White will be sort of lined up. He'll be right at the front somewhere. And you'd think that if Wilder really wanted it, if he really wanted to box on, I'm saying I think we would hear something from him by now. You know, more than a year after Tyson Fury, I would say if his heart is in boxing, he would have had a fight by now, or we would have had at least a fight date or something announced or arranged. But all we're hearing right now is nothing. It's just regurgitating the same gossip about Tyson Fury, and there's nothing serious about anybody else. I mean, we've heard about Wilder versus Charles Martin and people like that, but all this stuff we're hearing about Wilder versus Martin, and they've put other guys' names in there with him, but all of this stuff is just rumors. There's no dates for any of these fights. There's nothing proper and nothing concrete that's actually getting announced about a Deontay Wilder fight. It's just rumors, and it's just like fan-made posters where people are putting ideas together, but there's no facts to it. There's nothing concrete, and there's nothing arranged, which makes me think, I wouldn't venture to say he's going to retire right now, but I think we might have, it's a possibility that we might not see him in the ring again, because I don't see any indication that he's willing or looking to fight anybody. All I hear and see is just rumors. So we'll see about this. I hope I'm wrong, because at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder is he's a flawed fighter, but all these guys are flawed. You know, AJ's got vulnerabilities, Fury's got vulnerability. They've all got vulnerabilities. None of them are invincible. None of them are, you know, this a guy that can't be KO'd or can't be hurt or whatever, you know. So they've all got their flaws. And Deontay Wilder, whether people love him or hate him, he's an entertaining fighter. So he's a great thing to have in the heavyweight division. He's not the best. He's not technically the best, but he's a guy that can put you to sleep with one shot. So it's always good to have that sort of guy around and have that sort of guy in the division. So I hope he does come back, but by the looks of what I'm seeing, I'm I'm thinking he may not come back because there's no signs of a fight, and this is a year removed from his last fight, and he doesn't seem to be in any hurry to actually box anyone. We don't hear anything about that, so that's just my opinion on this thing. So let me know your thoughts below in the comment section. Until next time, this is MKO Pugilism, over and out.